When you have 72 hours of work, it has, let's say, a negative consequence. Even there can be suicidal tendency and suicides. Long hours of work can have serious consequences on social, psychological, emotional aspect of humans, family and society. It is an exploitation by capitalist class. Why our Prime Minister is working so hard? Why Narayana Murthy has worked for 30 years, 996? And where is the burnout? Do you think that we should work for 72 hours? Are you anti to that 72 hours? Do you think it is an act of exploitation by capitalist class when they say that we should work for 72 hours, especially Narayana Murthy, who keeps talking on this, that we should work for 72 hours? And then the critics argue that it is about exploitation of workers, labor class, it results into attrition rate, burnout and other blah blah things. So do you think that we should see this debate 996 only from two perspectives? One, that it is an act of exploitation by capitalists, and second, that it results into burnout and it affects work-life balance. Then we will not be able to understand the real aspect of the real, let's say, that thinking behind the debate, that why we should have 996. So if you are really interested to know that, so what that real aspect is, so let's analyze on that aspect. That first, 996 has been the idea given that 9 to 9 and 6 days, that results into 72 hours of work. This is how the idea which is being given by not only Narayana Murthy, but it was in practice in China, to some extent in Japan, you can say. So high-tech companies have followed in past 996. In India, it is being debated and promoted by Narayana Murthy and other such entrepreneurs. So the question is that, let's see that why it is being considered as an act of exploitation. Let's see first that side. So you should know that those who argue it is like exploitation, 72 hours of work will have its own consequences. Yes, there are studies which find that when you have 72 hours of work, it has, let's say, negative consequences like burnout, work-life balance, decline in productivity, decline in quality of work, lack of innovation. So, and it can be, let's say, from 30% to 50%. Even there can be suicidal tendency and suicides, like in 2023, one Ernst and Young company employee committed suicide. In fact, in Japanese culture, there is one word which is popular, that is called karoshi. Karoshi means death. So, this long hours of work in Japanese culture has resulted into also death. So, there are empirical evidence which can prove that long hours of work can have serious consequences on social, psychological, emotional aspect of humans, family and society. Having said that, let's come to on the other side. That why still do you think that those capitalists like Narayana Murthy, Elon Musk, Jack Ma, they are all fool people? And do you think that they are talking for themselves? Not at all. You should understand, Narayana Murthy is already aged, retired person, so he has nothing to do with having any personal benefit. Jack Ma is also retired person, so he has nothing to do with any personal benefit. Then why they are saying? And don't you think that they are also mindful of these studies and they will be aware about these studies? Can we say that it is an act of exploitation by capitalist class? So yes, when we see from employer-employee binary perspective, so certainly you can say that it is an exploitation by capitalist class. But do you know that what we will lose in that if you see from that perspective? So let's say that life is meant for what? Why you are living your life? Are you living your life just to maintain balance in work and life? Means, do you think that you want to live a very stable life, meaningful life, Yes, many people favor for that. Many people will like they should have a stable and meaningful life. But you should know that there are many other people who work day in, day out. And why they work? They want to realize their potential. When you will know that what is your potential? Do you think that when we have long hours of work and we enjoy our work, so it results into burnout and attrition, then why our Prime Minister is working so hard? Why Narayana Murthy has worked for 30 years, 996? And where is the burnout? So why they have not experienced that burnout? And do you think that they are talking for everyone? Not at all. They are talking for some companies which are IT companies and then ki IT professionals. It will not be applied to, let's say, ki everyone. It should apply to those who are in their 30s, means ki let's say ki young people, let's say. So when those who are in 30s and if they do not work 996 or even let's say ki to that level, they may not realize their fullest potential. Basically, the missing aspect in this debate is realization of your fullest potential. When you will utilize your potential. Certainly, those people who want to just go and work and then live their life, they are not going to realize their potential. They will not be stretching their potential. They will not be, let's say, trying to find out their hidden energy in them, hidden potential in them. So it is also about realization of potential, plus those people who are in 30s, it is for them, and certainly let's say that it can have repercussions. Everything has its pros and cons. So basically when you go for 996, you can say, so certainly it can be in those, it is for those people who are in their 30s. Second, that in 996 you work for a certain duration, then there should be break. Let's say it is work, break, means that way it should be done. It's not that they are just exploitative, they will treat you like slave the way the debates are surfaced. We have labor laws, we have human rights, we have the labor commissioners, and we are a democratic country. So how these things can be applied? Why don't we think in that way when we talk about 996? So just seeing the debate from a capitalist perspective or from the perspective of work-life balance, we may not be able to understand. This is one aspect. The second aspect is he is saying about India as a developing country. How India as a developing country is going to cope up in terms of competitiveness, in terms of productivity. So there Narayana Murthy concern is that how we can, let's say, have a leap forward, you can say that, how we can take a long stride in our process of development. And he thinks that at least one generation or let's say two generations should sacrifice for that. So it is not about let's say something exploitation of workers, employees, treating them as slave. Even if let's say Chinese Supreme Court in 2021 ruled against 996 culture and it was declared unlawful, but the question remains here that should we see 996 only from the two binaries? It is capitalist class exploitation, or it is, let's say, that work-life balance, it affects work-life balance? Not necessarily. We also work for more than, let's say, that 14, 15 hours, and still you can manage your time, you can say. Working, or let's say number of working hours, may not necessarily create burnout. How you work, how you take your work, many other things in your life, the supporting elements, they also play important role. And if you take China, if you take Japan, certainly the youth class there is employed, and both men and women both work, boys and girls both work in their country, and they have moved on. First, they have gone to a level of competitiveness, and by working, let's say, in 996, and then they have moved on. They have discontinued this practice. But how we are going to compete? So when Narayana Murthy is saying that India should have 996, he has in his sight about how India can compete China, Japan in terms of competitiveness, innovation, and productivity. So we should not necessarily see it from act of exploitation, rather finding out feasibility, especially for those people who are in their 30s, that can they work 996. By the way, already Government of India has, for secretaries, you should know that those who are secretaries to Government of India, our Prime Minister has started 996 culture. So it is already informally you can consider, and then why there is no talk on that? So think about this.